Hey everyone, it's Susan Pierce Thompson and welcome to the weekly vlog. In this week's vlog, I want to answer a question that was sent in and someone asked, do you need to do the BLE Bootcamp if you already have the book and all the information? I didn't read that because I was able to memorize it. It was pretty brief. So, what a great question. And, it was kind of an interesting decision to put out a book really outlining the program. And I did that, even though we have the Bright Line Eating Bootcamp, because I'm aware of financial limitations, right? And it's one of my personal missions to get Bright Line Eating gradually, eventually, to be available to anyone, no matter their financial resources. So the book was a big step in that. And so I put the food plan, the tools, as best as I could, an outline of how to do the program into the Bright Line Eating book. But the bootcamp isn't in there. Not even all the information, because the book would have been 1,500 pages. It would have been, this thick. There just was no way. There isn't even 40% of any of the modules from the bootcamp in the book. And there's some modules in the bootcamp that are missing entirely in the book. So the bootcamp goes way deeper than the book, but I put the program in the book. I mean, you can read the book and get the program. So I was about to shoot vlogs and I was talking to my life coach, Monica Leggett, and I mentioned this vlog topic and she said, "Oh, you should interview me because I've known you since the beginning of Bright Line Eating. I've known that I needed to do Bright Line Eating. I was kind of trying to dabble with no sugar, no flour on my own. I had read the book. And then a long time later, I did the boot camp." And she's like, "I totally have thoughts about what the difference is." And I said, "Awesome." And I started taking notes. I was like, "So Monica, what was your experience of the difference?" And she said that when she did the boot camp, she got into a real clear, crisp rhythm. She realized she had not really been doing the program before. She'd been kind of, doing some aspects of it, but she hadn't really been doing the program. And she got automaticity and a feeling of clarity and empowerment that if she chooses to, now she's only moderate on the susceptibility scale, I think a 6. But she realized that forever and ever and ever, if she chooses, and she really wants to get all the way down to goal weight, which I don't think she's ever done. I think she's kind of, a lot of people do this. They're like, well, I'm just not sure it's worth it, right? I don't know that I need to focus on it that hard. Other life priorities creep in or whatever. But she's like, I know that if I ever want to really dial this in, I have my bootcamp experience to look to, and I know exactly how to really do it, to lock it in. And she said it's a very empowered feeling. She said she also got a bunch of tips on how to cook vegetables, a bigger appreciation of eating vegetables, a lot of recipes, just from what people shared in her Facebook group for the boot camp that she now loves and uses. And for her, the boot camp was a big win. Fast forward a while, I still hadn't shot this vlog, and I thought, you know what? Why don't I ask the Bright Lifers? Because it's now been over 2 years since the book was published. I bet that's a pretty common story, actually, that there's people who read the book and then some time passed before they did the boot camp and then joined Bright Lifers. So I posted a question in the Bright Lifers Facebook group and I said, anybody start with the book? And what was the difference for you when you did the boot camp? And I got 87 replies. And here's what they said. A lot of people said that the meditation course, which I don't think existed when Monica Leggett did the boot camp, they said the meditation course that you can get with your boot camp, where you get a special custom 10-minute meditation every morning tailored to the themes that are unfolding in the boot camp modules for you that week. They said that was priceless for them. They really learned how to meditate and finally built a solid meditation practice using those meditations. So a lot of people mentioned the meditation course that goes along with the boot camp that you can get. People also almost across the board mentioned the support. when you read the book on your own, it can be isolating. And the boot camp comes with a ton of support. Buddies, mastermind groups, the online support community, the coaching calls. And you kind of get indoctrinated into this particular form of Bright Line Eating love, like this community, heartfelt spirit that if you haven't experienced it is hard to explain. Someone wrote in their comment, which I loved, she said, "It's going to be really hard to explain this, Susan, because if you haven't experienced it, there is no way to know what you haven't experienced until you've experienced it. So there is no way to really language it for people. But joining and marinating, to use a food term, in the love and care and camaraderie and enthusiasm that goes along with a group of people going through the boot camp is a very unique experience. A lot of people also talked about the identity of doing Bright Line Eating. They said that when they read the book, they were really approaching it more as a diet. And when they did the boot camp, the identity of being someone who does Bright Line Eating started to sink in. And a few people talked about the downside of that trajectory, which was they said when they started with the book, because they were seeing it as a diet, they built in some exceptions and some wiggle room and some sloppiness that has proven to be pretty hard for them to weed out. They feel like if they'd started with the boot camp first, they might have, they don't know because it's not their story, but they might have really started with more precision and had a much easier journey, which was interesting to hear people say. So I think the support is probably the biggest thing, but the next thing that was mentioned most often was the video modules. You know, I recorded, I think, 127 videos for the boot camp. And each week I sort of talk about what it's like at that stage of the journey. People talked about how eerie it was that whatever they were going through, all of a sudden they'd be watching a video where I'd be saying, now you're probably going through this. Here's what that means. Here's what's happening in your brain. And here's how to navigate it. And they said having the video modules was a total game changer. Very different than just reading the book. Again, different topics and the video interaction. It's sort of like I'm in your living room walking you through it. So those were the differences. And I just appreciate that someone wrote in this question. There are so many ways to do Bright Line Eating. And more I've come to trust that everyone on this journey picks the tools, the approach that works for them. And that my job is to invite you always to look inside and own your truth. That you are self-responsible and you get to decide what you need and what you want at every stage of this journey. So I think it would be silly if I didn't have a link to the bootcamp down below. So I will put one down below. But really this video was just to talk about the difference and just to say, I did put the program in the book for a reason. So that anyone with a library card could do Bright Line Eating for fun and for free. So that little groups of people in neighborhoods, within families could band together, use the mastermind concept that's also in the book, get support, and get happy, thin, and free. And I can't wait to find out how many people are living happy, thin, and free who just read the book. Because at some point here, we're going to launch our goal weight database and actually have a way to track how many people do we have living at goal weight. Because after all, our goal is 1 million people living at goal weight by 2030. We better start to find out how many we got. So whether you did the book or the boot camp or just watch the vlogs and have learned, oh, no sugar, no flour, 3 meals a day. Okay, 1 plate rule, I'm good to go. Whatever your path is, I honor you. I'm so glad to be on this journey with you. And I love you. I'll see you next week.